Hello and welcome to the Thursday, March 13th, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and today I'm recording from Jacksonville, Florida. One vulnerability that's just not going away is Log4j. The latest example are some scans that I observed today against the VMware Hyhbrid Cloud Extension or HCX API. This is a REST API, and at first I thought it was just a brute force attempt I saw because the endpoint that the request was directed at, well, was used for login. It's the session, and you just post a username and password to it, and you'll get back a session key that's then being used as a bearer token. However, looking at the payload closer, well, the username was actually a Log4j payload. This makes perfect sense, sort of in hindsight, that an attacker would use a username to inject a Log4j payload because, well, that's the part that's usually logged from a request like this. And interestingly, the IP that was going after these VMware systems also went after a couple other login pages, like some Cisco login pages and others that I yet have to identify. They're sort of just generic, like some just login. So could be various applications that are being attacked here. And then we got a little bit Patch Tuesday cleanup. First of all, the Apple update released yesterday that fixed the 0-day vulnerability in macOS and iOS. Apparently, after applying this update, some users reported that Apple Intelligence is being re-enabled if they had it disabled first. That's Apple's artificial intelligence feature that typically is enabled by default, but you are able to disable it. Well, in Europe, I don't think it's available, so no issue with Europe here. This has been an issue in the last update as well, so nothing really terribly new here. Just be aware, and if you want it disabled, double check that it's still disabled. Nothing yet I heard about yesterday's Microsoft update, but there are some reports that actually the January update does cause some issues with USB printers and does cause them to print gibberish. If you're affected by this, I'll have a link to a statement from Microsoft here in the show notes. And yesterday, when I was recording, Adobe had not released its Patch Tuesday updates yet. Well, they have been released now. They updated a total of 7 different applications. The one that's noteworthy here is Acrobat Reader. Of course, that's an old favorite when it comes to patching, and it fixes a number of critical remote code execution vulnerabilities. So definitely something that you need to apply if you're running Adobe Acrobat Reader. And CISA, in conjunction with some partner agencies, did publish a report about the Medusa malware. This is a ransomware. I'm always looking first for sort of initial access. In this case, it appears to be phishing. Of course, still very common. Screen Connect, we talked about this before, and then the Fortinet EMS SQL injection vulnerability. Another sort of interesting TTP here I find is that they see it do some port scans internally. That's something that should sort of pop up in any kind of internal sensor. In particular, some of the odd ports they're scanning, like 3050, the Firebird database port, which isn't used much. So having all of a sudden lots of SYN scans on this port should be something that could trigger an alert. Other than that, a great read as usual. These reports very useful to, first of all, make sure that you have blocked some of these initial access vectors as much as possible, that you have set up detection for the lateral movement, like these port scans. And then, of course, also just to check if you're not already infected, there are a number of IOCs and such listed in the report. And then let's look at some other patches. We got, first of all, Zoom released an update fixing 5 vulnerabilities. 4 of them are rated as high, meaning they lead to remote code execution, buffer overflows, buffer underflow, user after free, sort of your standard vulnerabilities here. Updated, I find Zoom is pretty good in sort of keeping itself updated. So shouldn't be a big issue. And then we got an update for the FreeType library. This is one of those font rendering libraries. Plenty of past vulnerabilities in libraries like this. This could lead to remote code execution. Problem with all these libraries is that number one, they're everywhere, so you'll have to wait for things like browsers and other display software to be updated. Secondly, there are a lot of fonts being loaded sort of dynamically these days, and that's how a vulnerability like this could possibly be exploited. Well, and this is it again for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for leaving a good review. And thanks for telling everybody, friends and enemies, how great this podcast is and get them to subscribe to it as well. Thanks, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.